In January 2025, DeepSeek spent $6 million to build what cost OpenAI $100 million.
They're crushing our benchmarks. How are they doing this?
By June, Airbnb ditched ChatGPT for Alibaba's Qwen because it was fast and cheap.
Okay, team. As of today, we are no longer using expensive AI models.
None?
We're going open source.
By November, half the AI models being used in America were Chinese. And then when entrepreneurs walked into Silicon Valley's top venture capital firms, 80% of them were building on Chinese models. The adoption war is already over. We just haven't admitted it yet.
Welcome back to Adjunct Intelligence. My name is Dale Lazinski, Head of AI Education, and I'm joined by Nick McIntosh, Learning Futurist. We're kicking off the new year with a deep dive into a story that I would say quietly unfolded in 2025. While most of us looking the other way, the story of how China called America's AI bluff. Nick, let's get into it.
So here's the frame. There are two AI races happening simultaneously, and we've only really been paying attention to one of them. So race one. Build the biggest, smartest AI model. We're talking GPT-5, superintelligence, frontier capabilities. Push the boundaries of what's technically possible. Race two is get everyone using yours. Make your models free, make them open, make them accessible. Win adoption and not benchmarks. So American labs, and here I'm talking OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they are laser focused on race one. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars per model, chasing superintelligence and keeping their best work proprietary. Chinese labs, so DeepSeek, Alibaba, Moonshot, they placed a different bet. They're racing to win adoption, and Dale, the data from 2025 suggests they're winning.
The great DeepSeek crush of 2025. I almost forgot about you. It does not seem like it was less than a year ago. But to continue your racing analogy, Nick, you could paint the labs, like the American labs, as high-performance vehicles. So like your Ferrari, your Porsche, etc. When it comes to mass adoption, sometimes an affordable, stable, available Toyota or Kia, it does the trick. And similar to China's approach to EVs, the goal seems to be similar here. Get the AI in everyone's hands or garage.
Okay, so let me give you the commercial adoption numbers first, because they are staggering. When entrepreneurs walk into Andreessen Horowitz, so one of Silicon Valley's most influential venture capital firms, the odds are that their startups are already using AI models made in China. So Martin Casado, a partner at A16Z, put it bluntly, I'd say there's an 80% chance that they're using a Chinese open source model.
80%?
What? 80. Not 8, not 18, 80. So Airbnb, they publicly ditched ChatGPT for Alibaba's Qwen, so citing speed and cost. And then by late 2025, nearly half of the most used AI models in the US were Chinese. Now, this wasn't an accident. This was strategy. So Andrew Ng from Stanford called what's happening in China a Darwinian life or death struggle among builders of open models. So while US labs were spending hundreds of millions on proprietary frontier models, Chinese labs were spending single-digit millions and then releasing everything openly. So case in point, DeepSeek R1, the hype, the scare that you mentioned just earlier, DeepSeek R1 cost $6 million to train. And it matched OpenAI's performance. Then Alibaba Moonshot released Kimi K2 for 4.6, just under $5 million. So not just cheaper, a 20th the price. And critically, fully open. So open weights, open parameters, ready to be customized and deployed.
Just a slide pause while you talk about how good these Chinese models are. I really like Kimi. I don't know if anyone's played with it, and I'm just going to plus one their onboarding process. It got me to interact with the model for 30 minutes in order to lock in a discount for the for the paid model. I think they're offering it like $9.89, but I should have been sleeping, and I was literally bargaining with this model, promising to give it a promo slot on the podcast in order for it to drop its price. So I think this is me returning that favor.
Yeah.
Eventually, I got it down to 99 cents, and we may be through the looking glass here completely, but I thought it was so smart because it got me to kind of feel the model and its personality and like how good it was. So Kimi, you're all right, and apparently very cheap. So plus one. Sorry, Nick, back to you.
No, shout out to Kimi. Thank you. We'll get him, her, it on sometime.
Yes.
Yeah. No, 100%. But Percy Liang, okay, so co-founder of Together AI, on this whole thing, explains why it matters, saying that open weight models, they spur different forms of adoption as opposed to proprietary technology. They can be more easily adapted by companies, by governments, by researchers, the foibles, so the nooks and crannies of individual use cases. Okay, so they're more adoptable in ways that proprietary models can't match. And then the adoption more escalated, getting into more of a consumer scale, right? So December, Apple and Google got into bed when they announced that Siri will be powered by Gemini, right? Not by ChatGPT, not by some unseen whispers of holy grail Apple intelligence, but by Google's Gemini, right? That's potentially 1.5 billion devices on effectively the premium ecosystem for personal devices, defaulting to the competition, to Google's AI infrastructure. So Google didn't win this by building the best model. They won by securing the best distribution deal. And Apple chose Gemini based on commercial terms and integration strategy, not benchmark scores. So Dale, Chinese models are winning developers through cost and openness, right? So pretty much every AI-enabled experience is routing through one of these models. So Google has taken a pretty decent consumer adoption through Apple's distribution. But then where does that leave immediate frontrunner or initial frontrunner, ChatGPT and OpenAI?
Precariously perched, I may say, on a mountain of investor hope. Interestingly enough, they don't even appear to be winning the fastest car award at the moment. And if you look at prediction markets, we won't go too much into prediction markets, I do love them, but prediction market Kelshi, OpenAI is at a 10% chance of finishing out 2026 with the smartest model. So you've got Gemini, Grok, and Claude all running laps around the little lab that should. But Nick, our job isn't to take bets on who is going to win the AI wars. Our job is to prepare our humans in the face of education. So the thing we need to be aware of here is being too much of a spokesperson for any one tool. We may be, in previous seasons, because we were immature and young, but we have learned, we have grown, it's been guilty of that before. Waxing lyrical about how good maybe OpenAI's model is or Claude is, but no.
Claude.
No more. We will not do that anymore, Nick.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Yes.
Put down the Claude banner, please.
Yeah.
And you should be putting your eggs in any one AI basket, because in about 3 months, students will have Gemini in their pockets and they won't even know that they're using it. Customer service experiences will be powered by Qwen, these Chinese models. And it's kind of more that like you need to approach this battle on all fronts and develop broad skills, broad policies, and uncomfortable as it may be to hear, you just need to be prepared. So I just don't get excited about any of these models. I think that's kind of where I'm at with this at the moment.
Yeah. 100%.
Or get excited by all of them.
Equally at the same time.
Just everything.
Right,
Just be exhausted.
Manic state. It sounds perfect.
Like, are you overwhelmed?
Yeah,
Because that's what you should be feeling at all times.
At
Just
all
keep your
times.
eye on every single model.
Yeah.
The best model you have is the one you have access to, I think, is where we're getting to.
100%. And I think that the one key thing here is that this isn't just commercial, right? Like, I mean, China's adoption strategy is in fact infrastructural, right? Because while we're talking about models and that data point that 80% of Silicon Valley startups are building on Chinese models, at the same time, Beijing, the Chinese government, was ensuring that the next generation would be fluent in them too. In 2025, Beijing launched a national work plan, so mandating AI education for all primary and secondary schools from 2025 to 2027. Okay, so every student receives at least 8 hours of AI education annually, not an elective, not a pilot program, as core national infrastructure. At the same time, 60% of Chinese faculty and students are using AI daily with university-supported tools like DeepSeek and beyond. So data is showing that 80% of Chinese respondents to surveys on this were excited about AI, compared to just 35% of Americans. That mandatory 8 hours of AI education, I put it to you that that's not a curriculum decision. That is an adoption strategy writ large. You don't just win developers and companies, you build a generation that defaults to your tools, to your frameworks, to your ecosystem.
Estonia has also done this with their teaching workforce. They've made that mandatory, and I appreciate the Estonian population is quite small, and there's probably a mobilization angle there, but that was the priority. And they came from a basis of also building tech capability right across the Estonian population. And so this is just the next evolution there, but it does take this kind of government mandated approach to go, we need to build capability. This is the direction we need to follow, etc., etc. So again, I'll go back to the thing of like, it doesn't really matter about the tool, but if you're focusing on what's around it, the scaffolding around it, building capability, building understanding, that's where the power should lie, and where you get real success over these.
Yeah, kind of focusing on the people, right? As opposed to the thing.
The thing will change. The thing will change. There'll be a new something. These companies will rise and die. The thing will change. But if you're building what's around it,
100%, because I'd suggest that's where the American strategy sort of fell apart, right? So
it's about the fastest car. It's about what car can we have
yes,
versus what can you build around it.
yeah.
Like, I know how to drive the car, but I know how to drive something with 4 wheels versus look how shiny and red my car is.
Very, very shiny and red. Let's be clear. Do you know who you're talking
Oh, it
to?
is very shiny.
The Chinese labs in this saw that exact thing of adoption as the race, right? Where the Americans were chasing the fastest car. They kind of pivoted, right? A little bit. They tried to have it both ways, the American labs here, but it turns out you can't. And OpenAI was probably the clearest example for a while. So they started open, hence the name. But in 2020, they went full proprietary to maintain control, to monetize. Then, August of last year, Chinese models started to eat into their customer base. They released GPT OSS, right? So an open weight model in their first in 5 years. Same week, they unveiled GPT-5, the proprietary flagship, the expensive one, right? So the strategy is pretty obvious. Keep the good one proprietary, throw the market a deliberately limited open version. And The Economist right there called it half-hearted. And they were right. And even Meta's retreating, right? So for a period, Llama was going very strong as your most famous and out there open model. But Zuckerberg has pivoted from that, saying that they'll be more cautious about what they're going to make open going forward. I guess
It didn't help that Llama 4 was quite lackluster. So it didn't release to pretty much like a giant raspberry sound effect. It wasn't great.
Maybe that's the thing. You can't win an adoption war with your B team, right? So Chinese labs release their best work openly. American labs release compromised versions, or just that's all they could make while protecting premium products. And people voted with their feet, with their wallets, with their code. But Del, so question for you. If American labs keep their best models back while Chinese labs release them openly, developers, who wins the developer ecosystem? And what does that mean for the students we're preparing to enter that ecosystem?
I think we need to look at the track record of any of these tech companies, like all the American tech companies or wherever they've come from. They get you in with the predatory pricing. And by that, I mean, when Uber first kind of came around, there was 99-cent rides. It was amazing. Personal drivers would rock up in lovely cars, and for $1, you get wherever you want. Now, if my Uber bill for any short distance or getting food delivered is under $100, I'm genuinely surprised. Netflix, also similar. All of the world's content at your fingertips for $5 a month. But now, more than quadruple that. They get you in, they get you hooked, they phase out the competition, and then they jack up the prices. I think all institutions need to be really conscious of the tools and technologies that they teach. I recall learning very, very expensive 3D software package. Yes, industry standard, as that was how it was marketed. But I got out to the real world and was faced with triple-digit bills and in search of like open source options. Open source cord cutting is a big trend that we've kind of seen in this space. And I think that's a preparation we need to consider for our students here.
Yeah, 100%. Because the framing, I mean, for me, and I think this is kind of what China's bet or Chinese labs bet is on this, is that good enough beats best, right? And there are underpinning moves in this as well. So if you remember September of last year, in response to actions by the Trump White House, but Beijing made a particularly decisive move, and that was just complete exodus from American AI chips. So ByteDance and Alibaba, they were forced to abandon billions in NVIDIA orders. So the bet was on domestic Huawei chips. Are they technically superior? No. I'll add, for now, that may change, and the track record suggests it will. Chinese tech is just getting better and better by the day. Xiaomi,
There's brilliant innovation coming from China constantly.
And that thing there of control, sovereign control, and that like ultimately beats geopolitical vulnerability, right? And other countries, they saw an out there as well. So Switzerland, they released their own domestic or sovereign AI model called ALTS, appropriately. 70 billion parameters, 1,000+ languages, fully open. And that binary that had been emerging for a minute there of the US versus China became obsolete for countries wanting independence on this. But yeah,
Question: doesn't the end game become the same here though?
go on.
Is it we're at a point where, like I said, the model is often get them reliable, and then jack up the prices and profit, and that's obviously gets returned into the Ouroboros of investment that we're seeing at the moment, where people buy more. You buy more graphics cards or data centers, get more processing power. You put data centers in space apparently as well. Like the end game, I assume, would be the same. So in a world where you have China building people to be reliant on their open source models, the good enough models, is there a point at which the tap gets turned off there and they become less open when there's a reliance, or is there always going to be a market for open and closed? Like I'm trying to game theory out what is the actual end game here.
I think you will probably end up with a split, right? Like, I mean, we spoke before about iPhones and Android. I mean, you were probably going to end up with that kind of dichotomy, with the kind of open and closed, where for a premium price, those that want a particular user experience might be down for it. But
Good enough, I think, is what you said. Good enough is what I think is the
good enough beats best.
There's a huge bunch of people that go, this is good enough.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what people want to spend their money on, in that people vote with their feet, and people are more than happy to be good enough. I'm going to pick this car versus I'm happy to take the public transport and spend my money in other ways.
But if we're serious about this, like, the other thing becomes like things like ambient intelligence. Like, I mean, the vending machine that can, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's a hot day. Apparently it's been hot in Melbourne, right? You're walking down the street and you just hear this chirpy voice, "G'day, mate. Look like you need a solo." You know what I mean? How well timed could that be? Dale, tell me. Like, how long has it been? I apologize for the accent. I needed to get it in there somehow.
That was almost offensive.
Yeah. I know. What was that? It's going to be an interesting thing to watch play out, right? Because, and the other thing, and I do want to stress on this, that good enough also does come with some really clear trade-offs, right? So the winter 2025, the AI Safety Index, DeepSeek and Alibaba Cloud both scored a D and a D minus on existential safety metrics. Think Skynet, think opening hacked of Terminator and or whatever movie you choose, right? These are the models that 80% of startups are building on.
I just want to interject.
Please.
They were in good company though, because they did share those D ratings with Meta and XAI's product. So just to footnote you, I appreciate they did fail, but some of the American models that I'm very proud about being good also failed.
I'm here with you.
But on the flip, to continue, the proprietary models were all scored almost double as well across that scorecard. Apologies.
100%.
Just to fact check you.
I appreciate it. I'm also just sort of overcome with a slight bit of the fear, thinking that now SpaceX AI worth what, $1 trillion and a bit. Now Musk is, as you say, doing all of that, folding the two together. We've now
data centers in space.
Exactly. Yeah. And all the
sentient suns. It's going to be exciting.
God. Yeah.
If I say exciting, I'm less afraid.
I appreciate that. That's a good note. Let me clip it, because 2025, and you're 100% right on these, because even the models themselves, if they do pass, if pass is the right word, these safety tests, even the best of the lot, best of the pack, Anthropic or Claude, was used for nefarious ends. So then in November 2025, Anthropic disclosed that Chinese state actors or state-sponsored actors had jailbroken Claude code to orchestrate just a massive cyber espionage campaign. And 80 to 90% of this was autonomous, so scanning targets, writing exploit code. So if that's the best in class, and then if something like DeepSeek costs 1,000th the price of that American alternative, but scores lower, a D in this case, on safety, I mean, what do you do? Pivoting, and again, I know we've gone a long way from HE and parts of this, but it is important, right? Because there's this impossible institutional question we have that arises from this. Do we prioritize safety scores or budget realities? And let's say especially for smaller universities, resource-constrained institutions. So how do we navigate that trade-off? Can we just tell everyone, use the safe one when it costs 20 times more?
So there's so many ethics conversations that are wrapped up in AI. And the equity piece is one of the ones that I'm still wrestling with. It probably does keep me up at night, scratching my head around. There's no good response here. Like there is a discomfort there because equity isn't solved anywhere. And it's not truly an AI problem. There's still a broader equity issue with just an AI dimension here. So the wealthy student with access to Claude or the $2,000 version of ChatGPT because they can afford it versus the student who has to use like the local model. Here's what I think we definitely shouldn't do is shame cash-strapped institutions or individuals into licensing bills that they genuinely can't afford because of a safety rating. Now, there's a big caveat there because I think it's important what we're doing with these models because you need to be really considerate around what you're building around that. It is always about the scaffolding. So if you are deploying a D-rated model, what constraints are you building around it? What guardrails, what literacy, what capability? Is it running your entire judgment space? Or is it running the vending machine, which perhaps has a much lower risk? And there'll be individuals out there that are going about this by themselves. So what do we do as a community to kind of share that knowledge? And what I would love to see of a lot more, and I don't actually think we do see it at the moment, is transparency and sharing, not shame and secrets. For individuals and institutions who have access to these kind of premium models, they probably, I'm going to say they have a responsibility as a human. This is still a very human problem. They have a responsibility to share what they're learning. So compare the outputs, document the kind of the failure modes, and help institutions and other individuals without those resources make informed decisions. Share the failures and the findings. I want to get that printed as a banner somewhere. Just share what's breaking because we need to know more of that.
Normalize failure. That's all I was saying.
Normalize failure.
I'm so pro that.
Like understand what doesn't work so that people can learn from you. Right now we're treating this like consumer choice when it's actually an infrastructure problem. As you so often say, it is infrastructure, and infrastructure problems require collective solutions. This is voting with our feet. So let's take some of that agency back from the premium price labs in that space as well and share those learnings.
I love it. I think that's kind of a little bit of what we're trying to do with this as well. Like, I mean, not to get messy, but in terms of the
Sharon,
sharing,
we're providing transparency, all the things that went horribly wrong. Fork on the talk.
Awesome. Let's bring it back to the classroom now, because this is where the adoption war gets real, right? So we spent 2025, 24, even 23 training students on ChatGPT. Let's be real, mostly ChatGPT. That's still top of mind for people of what an AI is, generative AI. We built...
It became the verb. It became the verb that people use with AI. Yeah,
100%.
Let me ChatGPT that.
Yeah, we built policies around that as well. We created AI literacy programs that taught prompt engineering for ChatGPT specifically. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to most, I'd suggest, the infrastructure was shifting beneath us. So when those students, our students, graduate and walk into startups, corporate jobs, research labs, there's a 80% chance they'll be working with Chinese AI systems, so DeepSeek, Qwen, Alibaba's models, Kimi, as you said. Not necessarily because they are better, they're good enough, but most of all because they're adoptable, because they're free, they're open, they're customizable, they're good enough. So, Dale, are we preparing students to navigate a fragmented, multi-vendor, multipolar, if you like, AI landscape? Or are we teaching them that American dominance is permanent and ChatGPT is the only game in town?
I'm gonna do something that perhaps a bit uncouth. A big note, our own internal RMIT AI product Val here. This is not promotion, but it's just a feature I love so much, is that being able to compare outputs in the same window from different models and flavors of AI. And I'll be the first to admit that there's incredible cognitive overload when you've got your ChatGPT output shown, your Qwen model shown on one side. But if my goal is to build an understanding of what model is best for the thing I'm trying to do, or what is coming out, and reflect properly on where an output succeeds, fails, and gets weird, and they often do, this is the best way to be able to do that, to be actually see them side by side and compare what's happening and actually reflect. It's probably a really conscious activity. It's like if I was just going about a daily task and then, well, let's compare 4 models, it's not something that's feasible. But if I'm consciously wanting to compare and take time out and actually do that, that is the best way to be able to do it. And I love that we offer that. You must get this all the time, Nick, but the hey, which AI is your favorite? And I know you quickly mentioned the word that starts with C. I've stopped giving definitive answers. I am enlightened. A, because you look like a fool. Because by the time you finished your sentence, let's be honest, there's a brand new model that's dethroned it and does a disservice to all the brilliantly different AI products that are out there in the world. So, a cautionary tale, perhaps. When you're teaching with AI, sure, teach with your preference, but make sure you allow for other AIs in the room and the conversation.
I gotta say, I have strayed. Like, I mean, so my typical thing, I want to echo, I want to +1 your process. And I genuinely think more people need to do this. when I am working on something big, it tends to be me, Claude, and Gemini in a room, and we bounce things.
The
I think
council.
the council of experts, 100%, 100%. And if people aren't doing that, and if I do still talk to people who are very literate in the space who just use ChatGPT, or whatever it is, and that's their one go-to. Please, if you're listening and you haven't, consider this your invitation to explore other models, potentially a few. And there's so much that you can learn from these different alternatives.
I have to admit something. My preference has become so inorganic
Go on.
that it's literally just whatever's open on my left-hand screen.
Yeah.
It is like, if there is a chatbot open on the left-hand screen, that I don't have to wait 10 seconds, that's where I'm at. There's not a conscious decision to use a model at the moment.
I'm not quite there. There's horses for courses.
I don't think it's the right way to do it. Like, I'll be
Yeah.
honest, it's reactionary.
Here's what 2025 taught us. Didn't plan for the reality that they'd simply build models that work just as well for a fraction of the price and give them away. And then American companies, developers, and our own students would switch simply because the economics and accessibility are undeniable. American labs are betting billions on pushing the frontiers of intelligence, so GPT-5, 6, 7, superintelligence, frontier capabilities. Chinese labs are betting millions on encouraging adoption of AI at every level: commercial, educational, infrastructural, generational. And the numbers are clear. 80% of startups building on Chinese models, half of US users on Chinese platforms. The educational numbers are clear, or directions at least. Mandatory AI fluency, institutional support, cultural buy-in. If they succeed, and the data suggests that they are, the question isn't who builds the smartest model, it's who controls the infrastructure everyone uses and who trained the generation that builds on it. So Dale, what do we do? How do we teach students to navigate this reality? What does AI, digital fluency, even mean in a world where the infrastructure is fragmented and geopolitical?
We stop getting comfortable. That's step one. I think that's what I'll allude to back before when I said just focus on everything, always, all at once. But I think just don't get comfortable with what it is, because it does change. So we stop teaching tools, we start building human capability, the ability to evaluate, to judge, to know when that red alarm should be going off because the model just did something very strange. When I tell a room of educators, go use this tool, I need to understand who controls it, what I'm actually endorsing, and what the real use case is, perhaps should be, and should is really important there. Not can be, should be. Because there's a big reality here. Sometimes good is good enough for the thing you're doing. The tiny model on my phone handles most of my mindless ramblings just fine. Minimal energy, minimal cost, stays between me and my device. But sometimes I need the beast, and I might go to a model, or I might go to something local, or something with a lot of parameters. I'll be honest, a lot of my requirements don't need that. And I don't think this is about picking sides or adopting one technology. It's about being aware of what you're using, what you're recommending others to use, and why. Have a why. AI fluency in 2026 isn't knowing how to write the perfect prompt. That's gone. It's a fax machine. Insert other analogy here, but it's table stakes. But which infrastructure you're building on, what that choice actually might mean, and what you're using, that's something you really need to consider. Let's take a break and come back with field notes. All right, before we wrap up today's episode, field notes, something that we've stumbled across in the AI world that is genuinely useful. It is called PTILS? PTILS. Listen, I like the experience, I don't so much like the name, but it's an acronym that stands for Prompts Today I Learned. And I've got to say, I do like the whole design of it. Now, me and you often talk about prompt engineering being a dying art form. However, I do believe that sometimes when you're demoing AI and you want to show how good it is, getting started can be very difficult. And often there's this massive gap between the basic idea and a great one. And PTILS, or Prompts Today I Learned, is trying to bridge that. To me, it's like, I'll be honest, it's just a beautifully designed library of bite-sized prompting techniques. Each one, and they call them petals, which is cute. I think that's what petals come. Oh, maybe it's called petals, not petals. That makes more sense. Yep, good.
I was enjoying your confusion so much. I didn't want to get in the way.
This is a learning experience. This is a learning experience. I've now understood that.
Hey man, we need to normalize failure. This is what I'm here for. But
failure, normalized. Tick. But you get a template, you get an explanation of why it works, and a real example of the output. No theory, no fluff, and you can take away to any model and see what it looks like. You can shuffle through the techniques, find one that's relevant to what you're working on right now, copy it, actually try it. The reality is prompting is a skill that most people haven't developed and most people have kind of disappeared from. And I appreciate me and you who are in the know say prompting's dead, but I still think there's a reason for it. But go check out Petals. I think there's some things to be learned there around what works. If you're still typing, hey, write me a report on this, Petals might be worth exploring because it does give you some good frameworks.
I love it. I'm going to have to check it out. Like, I mean, as you say, if people you don't know what you don't know, write me a report on. Yeah, good luck.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already, please leave us a review. Share this around within your network. And most of all, hit subscribe, whatever platform you're on. For those watching on YouTube, we're on all the podcast platforms too. And for those who would love to see our faces, you can find us on YouTube too. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, stay human to look.